Hey there, everybody. Welcome to a new Blacklist theory discussion. We're here. Coco Vanderwolf is here. And, we're all in the midst of a discussion about what's next. But we want to be very specific this time around. Who is the next big bad on the Blacklist Season 8? Because Katarina, seemingly done.
Yeah, we'll talk more about whether or not we think she's actually done or not in the video.
But, what if we just assume that she is gone from the equation now? Where does the show go from here? And I know that there's a lot of mysteries and all that sort of stuff. Who is Reddington? Those questions obviously need to be answered. But there's a bigger one story-wise that we're going to try to break down within.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about if Katarina is gone, dead, off the show, who is bigger than her that would be coming in as sort of the next bigger bad? Who is bigger than her?
Before we get into it, though, if you guys enjoy this discussion, remember, subscribe to the channel. You probably know by now we are doing a lot of Blacklist stuff throughout the season. We've got some fun off-season stuff right now as we await the show's return.
And make sure that you take a look at our Patreon, join our Patreon. We just did a Q&A over there. We do a Q&A at the very last Sunday of every single month. So if you want to ask us all your Blacklist questions for us to get a little deeper into a video about them, that's the video to be part of.
Absolutely. We really hope you guys check that out. We appreciate your support. And now we get into the first order of business here, and that is assuming that the big bad that was Katarina Rostova is in fact gone. And let's just say this. Regardless of if she's the real Katarina, a fake Katarina, I believe she's dead. I am fairly confident that she is done so on the show.
I absolutely think she's done. This show has used up all its fake outs. It has had enough of that. They have faked out a death so many times that they have no more. I feel like, and they've already faked out her death too, so I think she is done, and the story is moving into something else.
The other part of it too is that there's obviously the creative challenge of, okay, we already faked out Katarina's death 1 year ago. We all collectively remember that.
Yep.
There's also just the challenge of why would Reddington keep Katarina alive at this point? I can't think of enough justification. She knows too much to use the frequently used phrase here.
She knows too much, and she's threatened him with that information. Then after that didn't work, she was just like, oh no, I'll keep it a secret. Of course I will. There's no reason for him to keep her alive. Whatever this secret is that he is sitting on, I don't think there's really anybody that he's not going to have to dispose of to keep the secret, because it feels like this secret is bigger than him, that this secret is, something that's much bigger. Who knows? Global. It could be about America. We don't know what it's about for him, but there's something that is bigger than him. So I think Katarina is dead.
I think her death poses an enormous question for this show, one that's very hard to answer, in that Katarina was someone who was mentioned throughout the series. She had this huge established emotional sort of connection to Reddington, to Liz. How do you find a way to top that in a world where there aren't a lot of other characters that seemingly could be brought on and be considered bigger from the start?
Yeah, because where we thought it might be going was that it was going to be sort of the people behind the Townsend Directive, that it was going to be almost like this Killing Eve, Villanelle whole thing where there's going to be this whole league of assassins that were really prolific killers. I mean, Katarina's been hiding out for years from the Townsend Directive. And then, we saw Reddington roll up on these guys and dunk on them in 5 minutes, and this guy was dead. So if they're that soft and that easy to get to, then for me going forward, if they bring them in as the big bad, I don't care. They were so easy to find and so easy to kill.
I guess you could make the argument that that guy Heidegger, he was the head of the Western District or something. Maybe the head of the Eastern District is a million times better, but that would be sort of there being in the NBA you have LeBron James and then you have a 6-year-old child and you're forcing them to compete against each other.
Yeah, that's right. So moving forward, who is sort of the obvious choice of who is going to be Reddington's next big sort of villain or big bad or person he's going up against. And the obvious choice is Liz. Liz is pissed off, like beyond pissed off. She asked him not to kill her mother, said that it would be the end of their relationship. He did it anyways. He did it in front of her. She now has this voicemail that she doesn't know about yet, but obviously she's going to find out that it's there, that Katarina had recorded this conversation that, you know, she was having with Reddington. I think Liz is going to be sort of the next big threat against Reddington. And we sort of have to remember that this blacklist is Reddington's list. So we've all had this discussion of who is number one on this list. Is it Reddington or is it Liz? These seem to be the two that are going back and forth. I personally think that it's Liz, and because they've been building this up through the show where they were, you know, they're together, they're a team, you know, why is he coming to her life? You know, betrayal, and now we're here, right? So this makes sense to me that this would be the person who is coming in as his next big rival of who he needs to sort of take care of or deal with.
It makes sense with the way that this season has been promoted. Like, all the sort of teasers that were out there were all about it's Reddington versus Liz now. This rivalry is happening. We're past the point of no return. Insert cliche phrase here. And I just feel they have to at least pay this off for a little while. I'm not saying that I'm fully in on the idea that she's the big bad for the entirety of season 8 yet, but it feels like this has got to play out for a while. You can't have Liz in episode 3 go to the task force and be like, hey guys, all is forgiven. Let's get back to work. Like, that just doesn't work. It's not believable anymore.
No. So another person that we were thinking about that could be a choice of somebody who's bigger than the Townsend Directive, which is everybody, and bigger than Katarina. And that would be, if this Raymond Reddington is an imposter, if the real Raymond Reddington rolled back into the scene. Because if that happened, this Raymond Reddington would have a lot of problems with that. I mean, obviously this person would expose him, could unravel his entire life, could unravel the secrets if they also know what it is. I mean, that's somebody, if we're like, oh, who's number one and number two on the list? If Raymond Reddington is one of those people that's number one or number two, maybe the real Reddington rolling back in, if this person is an imposter that we've been with, they're not going to be having that. That's a huge problem.
This really comes into a lot of the questions I've been wondering, you know, because the Townsend Directive, they don't have a reason to go after Reddington, really. They were targeting Katarina. They had plenty of time to go after Reddington. They chose not to, ultimately. And Reddington, like we've said, he rolled up on them pretty quickly.
And dunked on them.
Yeah, and unless they really, whoever else wants revenge and wants to do some dunking back, like, I don't know if that's going to be where they want to go with this. And we've never really talked about the idea of, what if Raymond Reddington, the real one, is alive, but it's not the Raymond Reddington we're seeing on the show? Like, we've always talked about the context of what if the real Reddington was alive, and is this Reddington we've been seeing? And it's always hard to, like, we can sit here and be like, oh, it's possible for this, that, or whatever else, but the writers can kind of do whatever they want, and they can sort of find a way to justify any twist they see fit. Sure, they've told us that the real Reddington is dead. And sure, they've told us that, you know, the real Reddington wasn't that exciting a guy.
Listen, they've told us a lot of things.
Yes.
And not all of them are true, which is probably why you guys and us are always sort of going down the theory rabbit hole, because they'll tell us something and then it'll play out, you know, different on the show to what they said. Which, and I understand. They can't go into an interview and someone's like, hey, is this, you know, the real Raymond Reddington? And be like, okay, you got us. We haven't aired it yet, but yeah, we'll tell you, right? They're not going to do that. They kind of are in that situation that they have to cover up what they're doing.
And if the real Raymond Reddington is out there, he was just sort of a boring schmo before all of this, and he's not this Reddington, he's got to be off somewhere, like, stewing, getting really mad that, like, this other person is claiming to be him, and maybe he's attached himself to some terrible organization.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the real Raymond Reddington, I mean, if he's out there, he is going to have a problem with this Raymond Reddington, because we don't know everything about him. We don't know what he's doing. We don't know what he was doing. It's all sort of shrouded in mystery. But I would think that the Raymond Reddington that we know and love, if this old one comes back, it will be a problem for him. So that would be a really big bad for our Raymond to deal with.
It would be a big bad. It would be a total surprise. Like, I think the Liz idea is probably more likely the way that they were going. But if they really just wanted to just, like, rip the tablecloth off for everybody, like, they could do this.
Yeah, my hope would be, if they do something like this, that this season would be the season of Liz is the big bad. They get through whatever they're getting through, where she will find out the truth about everything, because we need to move on from this into something else. So that if we get another season, that maybe the next season is where this Raymond Reddington, this other Raymond Reddington comes back in, and maybe Liz and our Raymond have found a way to sort of, I don't know, work together again. I think it's going to be really hard. I think it's very difficult to walk this back. Even if it turns out that this Katarina was a fake and it wasn't actually her mom, depending on how long he lets her believe that, I mean, it's going to do damage every day that goes by.
For sure. And especially, he may have a why that justifies it. Like, he may have a reason, but by the time all that is out, she may not care anymore. It may be too far gone. The final theory that we have, and this is one we should just all call the rando theory, which is, what if the writers just throw in some rando character who we've never really heard of before, or only sort of vaguely heard of, and then somehow justify this person being a new big bad, which, on the surface, my reaction to this is just, I do not want it, I'm not interested in it. They haven't announced anybody playing a new big bad, so there's that.
But they might be saving it as a big secret like they did on NCIS when Coy DePablo came back as Ziva. So, I mean, who knows what's going on? My worry is that it is going to be a rando person. Is going to be the head of the Eastern Division or something like that. Because it feels very strange that they brought up that this person was like just the Western Division or whatever. That's like, oh noes. Are we going to bring in this soft person from the other side? Like, I don't want to see that. I don't believe in this sort of Townsend directive anymore. I don't think they're threatening.
Okay, maybe Neville Townsend, at least they've mentioned Neville Townsend, so maybe you bring in him, and maybe he's going to be like, it was some reverse psychology. I brought in the softest people possible for the Western Division so that when you met me, you'd be even more scared of how dangerous I really am.
No, I think it's a lot like your analogy of LeBron and a 5-year-old, because that's really what that felt like when we saw Raymond just roll up on him and kill him. Like, it was... How did Katarina not be able to do that with all the resources that she had, even though she was underground? She couldn't have done that herself? Frustrating.
I know, and I'm worried that is going to be, maybe they can justify it, maybe they'll make it work. I'm worried about that being the direction that they go, just because we still don't really know a lot about if Townsend has something on Reddington that's causing him to do all this sort of stuff and mask these secrets. Like, these are the questions that, I want answers to this season. I will survive if we don't know Reddington's true identity this year. But I want to at least know why he's keeping stuff from Liz. Is that too much to ask?
I feel like it's time. Even if this isn't the last season, they have set this up at this point with Liz being this pissed off and their relationship being so broken that it is time for them to come to a head, figure it out, get the secret out there, and then maybe move on.
All right, well, now let's ask this question, because this could be fun. Give me your craziest theory as to who you think the next big bad could be. Is it going to be Dembe? Is it going to be Jennifer Reddington?
See yourself out.
Is it going to be
Dembe? How dare you do him dirty like that?
Dembe would never do us. No, it's not going to be. Is Ram's random ex-girlfriend who's in prison going to suddenly come? Which, by the way, I still have problems with that storyline. But anyway.
Okay.
Let us know who you think the next big bad is going to be. And if you do like this video, subscribe, give us a like, support us further. Check those links to the store, our Patreon, and we will see you here next time.